When we first meet Vivian, things that are burned into my memory are her pulling her sock up her leg seductively. It's
yeah.
Yeah, and I can't explain it to y'all. I'm so sorry. It's a podcast. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm doing it for you though. Hey y'all, I'm AJ Reyes.
And I'm Timothy Dailey-Valdes.
And this is Can I Bother You? Welcome back, or welcome if it is your first time here. Timothy served us some very nice, there was more bassiness to your, and I'm Timothy Dailey-Valdes this time than usual, I think. And, it felt very warm and inviting.
Oh, good. Well, I'll try to maintain that tone throughout the episode.
Yeah, please butch it up.
Oh, boy. That's going to be a losing battle.
If you want to hear more of Timothy's attempt at being butch, you can follow us at Can I Bother You on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Even though we only have a few weeks left together. I forgot we already said goodbye to, or we didn't say goodbye to anyone yet, but we introduced that you were leaving. Yeah, I forgot. Okay. I keep forgetting. It's okay. We're good. Anyway, the point is, enjoy it while it lasts. Follow Can I Bother You while there's still some Timothy involved in it. But today, there is no Timothy involved. He's leaving now.
Bye, everyone. That didn't sound like footsteps. Why did I even try?
So this one, we actually planned this in November of last year, and then it never happened. I don't exactly remember why, if there was a reason. But we, like most people, have movies that we have never seen before, but everyone else in the world seems to have.
Lots.
Lots and lots and lots and lots. So we assigned each other a few to check out the other, movies I've seen. I told Tim, check these out. These are the things people watch. And then vice versa. So we are here to discuss those things. So spoiler alert for, what are we talking about? Pretty Woman, It's a Wonderful Life, which is 1 billion years old, but I hadn't seen it and Timothy gave it to me. But Pretty Woman, It's a Wonderful Life, My Girl.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
To Wong Foo is what I was trying to think of.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I was trying to go back and forth, and I was trying to leave the two that we might not talk about for last.
Oh, okay. Got you.
That's okay. Now they know. I Know What You Did Last Summer, To Wong Foo, and Big Lebowski. So we might not talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer and the Big Lebowski, but let's just get started and find out if we get to those.
Sounds good.
Let's just go ahead and start with Pretty Woman.
Okay.
Because I feel like, I mean, I'm obviously very biased, but I feel like that is the one.
Yeah, it's a really good movie.
It's the good, though.
That was one of the movies that AJ gave me to watch. I tragically had never seen it before.
I think it's actually come up in a past episode, in passing.
Yes, I think it did.
Mm-hmm.
Also, sorry for all the paper crinkling. I am a very old man, and I wrote down a lot of notes on paper, so you're going to hear that a lot. So, Pretty Woman. Wait, am I summarizing the movie?
Oh, yeah. Should you summarize it, or should I?
I took enough notes that I'm confident that I could summarize it.
Okay.
If you would like me to.
How about you summarize it, and I'll throw in whatever you might miss.
Perfect.
Okay,
I
great.
love that. Okay, I have because I'm an idiot, I have my summarizing notes separate from my notes about the movie.
Good on you for having that, though, because I didn't do that. I just have notes on the movie. I didn't try to write the story, which probably would have been a good idea.
I'm so sorry, AJ. I'll get there, I promise.
You're good. We're not going anywhere.
Okay. The year is 1990. I believe. That's the year that the movie came out.
It is.
And I just assume it's set in the present. I don't think they ever say what year it is in the movie. But anyway, we're in LA, as we are for so many stories. And we meet Vivian, who is a lady of the evening. I don't know why that's the phrase I wanted to use. But she is a prostitute, a sex worker. And we also meet Edward. Oh, and she's played by Julia Roberts. Mm-hmm. We meet Edward, played by Richard Gere. He is having car trouble. He's lost on Hollywood Boulevard. And he comes across Vivian, and he's asking her for directions. And, she helps him out. But his car has broken down. So he hires her, but not for her normal line of work. He hires her to drive him to his hotel. And they get there and they have a lot of chemistry and they're talking and schmoozing. And all of my synopses are going to be like this. I'm so sorry.
Here for it.
ADHD is a hell of a disease. Anyway, disorder. Anyway, Edward, he's from New York and he's like this high-powered finance business guy.
Uh-huh.
I don't really remember exactly what he does.
I don't know either.
But he's very wealthy. And so he hires her, again, not for her, well, adjacent to her typical line of work, I guess. If you typically get the girlfriend experience, he basically hires her to be his girlfriend for the week while he's in LA doing businessy things, going to, dinners and functions, that kind of thing. I think he pays $3,000 for the week and for a new wardrobe, which 1990, 91 was a different time. I just feel like that's not, he's lowballing her. That's just what, I feel like she's worth more than that. But so Vivian goes to Rodeo Drive and she's looking at the fancy, beautiful clothes, but she walks into the store and, she's just wearing her normal everyday attire, which to the hoity-toity people at this very high-end store on Rodeo Drive is just the lowest of the low, the trashiest outfit. When in reality, like looking at it the whole time, I was just kind of like, anybody would walk down the street in this today. Like, this is a perfectly normal outfit, but people are like stopping and like looking at her as she's walking down the street.
Yeah.
And
it's a little blue skirt and a tight white crop top that are connected by like a golden circle in the middle thing.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
It's very cute.
Yeah.
And like, it's maybe not something that everyone would wear to like church or something, but like it's, it's perfectly serviceable.
Yeah.
Anyway. And so she goes into the store and the shopkeepers are very snooty and they look down on her and they basically tell her like, you know what, this store isn't really for you. Like, you probably couldn't afford anything in here, blah, blah, blah. And so she walks out, she's humiliated, and she goes back to the hotel. And I'm sorry, did I mess something up? Or are you going to interject?
You haven't. I'm loving the thoroughness.
Am I being too long-winded?
It's been about 4 minutes and you're only about 30 minutes into the movie.
Oh, God. Okay. So she goes back to the hotel. The hotel manager helps her out. She gets like the whole Pygmalion treatment. Edward is very impressed, starts to let down his guard. Meanwhile, Philip, who is Edward's lawyer, played by Jason Alexander.
George Costanza.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He thinks that Vivian is a spy, like a corporate spy. And so Edward tells him the truth. And then Philip propositions Vivian in this really like disgusting way at this horse race. So Vivian is disgusted with the whole thing and she goes and she gets mad at Edward and Edward apologizes but basically claims that like her bluntness is rubbing off on him and she's changing him. And he takes her to see La Traviata, which if you know anything about opera is a very like thematically relevant opera because it's about a prostitute who falls in love with a rich man. Anyway, she has never seen an opera before and she loves it. And then they go back and they make love for the first time. And Vivian breaks her, I didn't mention this before, but Vivian breaks her no sex during kissing. Her no kissing during sex rule. And it's like a big emotional moment, And then later, Vivian thinks that Edward is asleep and she tells him she loves him. And he hears. Then later, Edward offers to keep Vivian as his kept woman and she's like really insulted because she feels like he's treating her like a prostitute. She talks about how like she envisions this fairy tale for herself and like etc. And Edward goes back to work and I don't know, he does something weird with the deal that Philip wasn't expecting and Philip gets mad about it. And then Philip goes and confronts Vivian. And I'm sorry, we probably should have done a trigger warning at the beginning of the episode because there's a couple of instances in these different movies of bad things. But anyway, Philip tries to sexually assault Vivian and Edward arrives just in time and he punches Philip and then he fires him. Then Edward and Vivian still have some tension and they argue a little bit and they're about to go their separate ways. But as Edward is on the way to the airport, he has an epiphany and he realizes like, this is it. This is the thing. She's the one and I'm her one. And like, this is what's happening. So on the way to the airport, he tells his driver to take him to Vivian's apartment and he climbs the fire escape despite his intense fear of heights that I forgot to mention until now.
Oh, yeah.
And Vivian is so touched and she realizes that this is her fairy tale all along and they embrace and kiss The end.
Hooray!
Did I do it? Was that okay? Despite how long it's like.
Yeah, that's good. I'm not going to be even kind of as detailed because I'm just going to go through them. But that was very good, yes.
I'll try to be less thorough on the rest of them.
The only thing that you didn't mention that I expected you to mention was that the thing that Edward did that his lawyer Philip did not like, that he got all angry about, was that Edward, I think they were supposed to essentially be stealing a company from another guy, and in the end he was like, no man, keep your company, keep your people on, I'll give you the money, let's work this out. And then the lawyer's
You're
like,
right.
you're supposed to cut them down, what the hell.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what the specifics were.
The reason I thought you would mention is because earlier you had talked about how Vivian had changed him, like made him a better man or whatever.
I guess I didn't really I didn't really explain how that affected what he did. You're right. I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. You can work on your writing later. Unless you want to go in a particular order, I'm good with just diving into this movie and going wherever we see we go. Okay, the thing that I had to hold back laughter because, as Timothy mentioned, they go to the opera and she sees it and she loves it. And when it ends, the much, much older couple sitting next to them, the woman in her like pearls and her finest gown, the 1990s, so imagine big shoulders. The older woman turns to Vivian and is like, oh, did you love it, dear? Or whatever, because she can like see the look on Vivian's face. And Vivian is like, it was so good, I almost peed my pants. And I died.
It was very funny.
I forgot about it. I
wasn't
died.
expecting her to say that.
It was so good, I almost peed my pants.
Like one of the through lines of the movie is she's kind of like a fish out of water. She's a little rough around the edges. But yeah, that made me laugh really hard too. I'm so sorry. My notes are like in plot order. Like I wrote them as I was watching the movie.
Oh, we can go in plot order. I just really wanted to say what I was thinking about it.
No, I'm glad you did say that. So my first note is LA is my city because I've been there twice. So the establishing shots made me feel like I was back at home. I took this really I mentioned it in the travel episode, I think. I took this really terrible tour of Hollywood when we were there. They purported to show us the fire escape from Pretty Woman. And I think it really was. It certainly looked very much like it, if it wasn't. So at least that part was right. But there were other things they said that I knew were not true. The club that we see in the beginning of the film, the Blue Banana Club.
Oh, right.
If that's a euphemism, I don't understand it.
I don't get it either. Yeah.
But it might not be. It wasn't like a sex club or anything.
No.
So it might not be, but it just, I don't know. It gave me pause. Laura San Giacomo needs to be in more things. She played Vivian's coworker. I can't remember her name.
Kit.
Thank you.
Yeah, her best friend. I wanted to be her when I grew up.
Yeah, she's just like so cool.
She was also, they call them hookers. We do not call them hookers nowadays, just so you know, in case you didn't know that. That is not the preferred term now. But she was also a hooker, but she was also a drug addict. But little AJ was like, she's so cool, I want to be her friend.
I read that this movie was originally supposed to be grittier and that Disney made them turn it into like more of a romantic fairy tale-y kind of.
It was much darker. In the original script, which was called 3000, which as Timothy said is how much Edward ended up paying Vivian. In the original script, Kit dies of a drug overdose and Vivian is also a drug addict, and it ends with him shoving her out of his car and throwing the money at her and driving away.
Oh God.
Yeah, and that's how the original one ended. And yeah, right? And apparently Julia Roberts was cast in that. Like they cast her for it, and then Disney and Gary Marshall took over, and Disney was like, nah. And so they changed it up, and then they didn't want Julia Roberts. It took a little convincing, yeah.
Oh my God.
They had to like screen test her a few times, and they were like, okay, yeah, fine.
Oh man, that's wild. So throughout all of these, I wrote down lines that I liked, or especially lines that I wish I had written. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's an exchange where Edward says, "What's your name?" And Vivian says, "What do you want it to be?"
Yeah.
I really liked that. Their chemistry throughout the whole movie was just electric. Even though I didn't like Edward the whole time, because he did some questionable things, they had really good chemistry, and I understand why they got back together for Runaway Bride.
Yeah, I can see it.
Another exchange I really liked. I never joke about money. Neither do I. I really liked that one too. Let's see. Oh, fiddling with hotel key cards is so much older than I remember. It happens in this movie, and I was like, that was the thing back then? They weren't still using the little keys?
I didn't even think about that, but I guess it must have been relatively new, because Edward says, I miss keys.
Yeah.
So, like, it couldn't have been too new. Too old, yeah.
Yeah.
New technology.
There's one point where Vivian is singing along to Prince in the bathtub, and all I wrote about it is that it was everything. It just made me very happy.
There's a really good blooper of it, and I'm not going to spoil it by explaining it. Honestly, I'm even talking about it is probably hyping it up too much, but I'll send it to Timothy so we can put it in the show notes.
Perfect.
There's a good blooper of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I'm interested to see it. Oh, okay. So there's a scene where Edward and Vivian are having dinner with the clients who run the company that's supposed to be dismantled, but he ends up saving. It's at a very fancy restaurant. It's a situation where Vivian needs to use what she's learning and about like high society.
Yeah.
The hotel manager has taught her what utensils to use for what. Oh, and Edward orders for her while I think she's in the bathroom or something. Anyway.
She goes to powder her nose.
Right. So then a plate is brought to her. It has escargot on it, which Edward had to have ordered just to be mean.
Right.
Because I have never had escargot, but one of the only things I know about it is that you have to use a special fork. And like it's difficult to eat. And so he had to do that to be mean. There's no way he should have expected her to know how to eat that.
I didn't know that aspect of it, but I was kind of like, she's not going to want to eat escargot, man.
That is also true. Like, he just had to be fucking with her.
Right.
I can't believe anything else.
I mean, that's what he was paying her for.
Oh, and also she gets a dessert that has mint leaves as a garnish, and she starts just like eating the mint leaves. Oh, Lord.
I'm not positive, don't quote me, but I don't think that was scripted. I think she just did that. Yeah, and then they kept it in, yeah.
We don't deserve half of the people in these movies.
Right.
Julia Roberts is very high among them. I wrote, God, I love a good shopping montage.
Real.
Oh, is it bad that I unironically love Kenny G? Kenny G was playing at some point. I don't remember in what scene, but I wrote, is it bad that I unironically like Kenny G?
I did write down in my notes that the soundtrack slaps, but I don't remember a Kenny G song.
I wrote this before everything went down with Philip, but I wrote, I like Jason Alexander, but I'm troubled by how well he plays weasels.
Right?
Like, he seems like a cool enough guy. He's not a bad actor, but he's really good at playing like sleazeballs.
Yep, really good at it.
It's just upsetting to me. Oh, I'd seen the necklace scene probably a dozen times, but it's so perfect in context. Like, I just giggled with delight. That's not even a hyperbole.
That was real.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you knew that.
Yeah, I had heard that.
The necklace scene that he's talking about, in case you haven't seen the movie, Richard presents Vivian with this gorgeous necklace that apparently actually cost $25,000. That's what they say in the movie, and that's how much it cost, and they had 2 guards right off camera. But he presents it to her. Apparently they'd filmed it a few times, and Gary Marshall, the director, felt like it was flat. Like, he was like, it's just kind of boring. He's like, he's showing her a pretty necklace. Okay. And so he told Richard Gere to close the box on her hand when she started to reach for it. And so he did that, and she, laughed very loudly because she wasn't expecting it. And they kept that part in the movie, which was perfect.
Yeah.
It's the perfect scene.
Yeah, it feels so real.
Yeah.
And then this is my last note. The final scene, exclamation mark. Oh, my heart. I think I said exclamation mart. The final scene, exclamation mark. Yeah, my heart. She rescues him right back. Because she wanted someone to rescue her.
Yeah.
On a white horse.
Did you tell that in the summary?
I just said she wanted a fairy tale romance.
Yeah.
But that was specifically what I meant. Yeah, she had this vision of a knight riding in on a white horse to rescue her.
Yeah, there's a scene where she talks to Edward about that. And then he makes it come true, except it's a white limo.
Yeah.
And instead of a sword, it's roses, a bouquet.
Yeah. But they rescue each other. They change each other for the better. It's a beautiful movie.
That's true. Also, I'm a liar. His sword, the sword was his penis. No, his sword was his umbrella.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he also had flowers, but the umbrella was the sword. Yeah. My bad. I didn't want to be a liar.
No, I appreciate the thoroughness.
Let's see. Things you didn't mention. A very young Hank Azaria has his first movie role in this.
Oh, I read that, but I didn't read it until after the movie, and I didn't notice him.
He was the detective in the very beginning, and he has an interaction with, other than Kit, my favorite character in the whole movie. There's a man walking down the street at the beginning and at the end of the movie saying to random people on the street, "What's your dream? What's your dream?"
Oh, yeah, I
Everybody who
forgot
comes
about
to LA has a dream. What's your dream?
Yeah, I liked that guy too. I can't believe I didn't write him down.
The movie starts with, I mean, it doesn't start on this exactly, but there has been a murder nearby where Vivian lives, and it's not, like, central to the plot at all. It's just a moment that we see. But Hank Azaria is the detective looking into that, so he's questioning everyone on the street. And there are tourists taking photos of the body.
And it's someone Vivian and Kit knew, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't remember who, but yeah.
It's just... This isn't a criticism, but like if it were real life, it would probably be a lot more traumatizing than it was. But anyway.
It also probably isn't the first time it's happened, though.
Oh God, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, now we're wading into the dark stuff that Disney didn't want us to think about.
Y'all, it's no wonder that I've ended up the way that I have. Because this movie came out, Timothy, you were right, by the way, my bad. It was 1990. Oh, I don't know what month it came out, but I probably wasn't even a year old when it came out. And I was watching it in my low single digits, I'm sure. I was watching all these and much worse movies, many other R-rated things when I was a child, and I'm like, how did I get away with this? I posted about it on Facebook as a joke, like, I don't know why my parents let me do this, but the truth is they didn't. I just did it. I just never asked for permission. I just did things all the time. But anyway, yeah, little AJ was like, that hooker, that's for me. That life, that's what I want. So I've always been very sexually liberated. As you will hear in next week's episode, Can I Get You Part 5? The final chapter. Anyway, let me look at my notes real quick. Oh, when the audience first meets Vivian, she has short blonde hair, and that's how she meets Edward, her short blonde hair, and then he hires her for the night, and they sleep together, and then the next morning, he wakes up, and he sees the hair resting on a chair nearby, and so he's like, looks at it like, what? And then he goes to the bedroom to look at Vivian, and she's asleep in the bed, but her hair is like gorgeously draped across the pillow in the bed behind her, and I'm just like, it's such a gorgeous shot, and I'm like, no one looks like that when they sleep. Her hair does not look like that. This whole thing is already a fairy tale, Vivian. Those are the only notes I had too. Other than I did write down, I already said it, but I loved Kit. I really did.
Yeah, she's great. I should have written more notes about her, but I really liked her.
Yeah. I mean, I loved all the like smaller supporting characters, but like I really loved Kit.
It's a really well cast movie, just
really
in
is.
general.
And I mean, I guess that's probably why Gary Marshall just took the cast with him from movie to movie, because it's the same people.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
They work pretty well together.
Yeah.
Would have been nice if there were some people of color, but they all worked well together.
True. This might have been the whitest movie. That might not be true.
Other than the What's Your Dream guy, I can't remember any other people of color.
Yeah.
I could just be forgetting someone, but I don't remember anyone else of color in this movie.
I don't either. But...
And I didn't look for it, but I don't think it passes the Bechdel test either.
No, I don't think so.
Which isn't surprising, but
still, an excellent film. Thank you for choosing it for me.
For sure.
I've been meaning to watch it forever, and I'm glad I finally did. 11 out of 10.
Well, Timothy, we are 37 minutes into this episode.
Don't worry, I'm going to cut out a lot of the random crap I said.
That's okay. We're here to have fun. Honestly, at this point, the series with you, at least, I still don't know what I'm doing, y'all. I haven't decided yet. No announcements. But at least Can I Bother You With You is ending, so these episodes can be as long as we want.
Okay.
Anyone who is listening is here because they love you, Timothy, so... Wish I hadn't said that. But, anyway.
I don't know that is true.
It's our episode. We can talk however long we want.
Okay, fair enough.
And you guys will listen, whether you like it or not, please.
You can fast forward through some of what I say at least.
Yeah, that's true.
Half of you probably do already anyway.
I was going to go for It's a Wonderful Life next, just because it's so different. But just in case we do decide that we're running out of time and we try to cut it shorter, maybe I should do Wong Foo first. Nah, fuck it. We're doing It's a Wonderful Life just because I like the juxtaposition.
Okay.
So, It's a Wonderful Life came out in 1946. When I looked up all of these movies to know where we could find them to watch them, I found it free on some channel thing that I'd never heard of before on my Roku TV. But by the time I got to it, it was no longer free there. So I had to Google for it, and I found a free one on some Daily Motion, but they had it in color. And I'm like, oh, I'd rather watch it in black and white, but I'm also not going to spend money. So here we go, in color. So I saw it in color, and then Timothy later told me that it's cursed. Is that real?
No. I just meant cursed as in, like, unwatchable.
Okay, gotcha.
I was being, I don't even know the right word, but I was being dramatic.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was, like, an It's a Wonderful Life folklore or something.
No, I'm sorry. No, it's just,
that's-
I'm not a big fan of colorized movies.
That's much less interesting. Okay, well, anyway. So, It's a Wonderful Life follows a man named George. I don't remember his name. George something.
You got it right, George Bailey.
Bailey, there we go. I couldn't remember his last name. It's about George Bailey. Oh, okay. So, y'all, It's a Wonderful Life. I had no idea what it was about. So, if you don't know what it's about, either your mind's about to be blown. Because it starts, and I'm like, is this a supernatural movie? Because we're listening to the voice of God and a couple of angels or some bullshit. And I'm like, what? So apparently there's a man on Earth named George Bailey who is in trouble, and God and some other angel guy are like, oh, let's get that one lame-ass angel who still doesn't have his wings on it. That poor guy. What an idiot. He'll take on this problem for us. And so they're like, well, first, before you... What's the angel's name? Clarence, yeah. Clarence, the angel that does not have his wings yet, who now has to help George Bailey in order to get his wings. They're like, Clarence, first let's meet George Bailey as a child. And so we see George as a child, cute kid, got a little job. And then we see him as a teenager, cute teenager, got a little job. And then we're with him. By the way, what's his name? Who plays George Bailey? James Stewart. James Stewart is almost 40 years old, and like he starts playing adult George Bailey at 18. And I was like, okay, sure, we'll go with this. That's fine. Because Donna Reed was playing his love interest, and she actually was significantly closer to 18. But anyway, so we meet George, and we see his life, and we get to know him, and he's a nice guy who loves to help other people, and then he wants to go to college, but then his dad gets sick, and then his dad dies, and so then he has to take over the family business, so he never goes to college because of family business. Then at some point, he falls in love with this girl who's always loved him. They get together, and they get it on, and they got some kids, and then at one point his life goes to hell, just left and right, everything's wrong. I can't remember what any of the things that were wrong.
It's a bunch of like old-timey financial crises that are kind of impossible now. It's a very dated movie in a lot of ways.
I mean, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, okay, I see why this is stressful for him, but like, I've had money problems my whole life, so this means nothing to me. Like, you got it easy, bro. You still have a business. Good for you.
Well, but part of the problem is that at every turn, the business is just about to go under.
That's true, but I mean, at every turn, my life's just about to go under, and like,
It's true.
I feel like that's worse than his business. Anyway, so then he's thinking about, oh yeah, we didn't talk about, trigger warning, content warning for attempted suicide, I guess. He's standing on the edge of the bridge, and he's gonna do it, and then Clarence, the angel, is there now, in person, live and in person, and in color in some versions. And he jumps off of the bridge before George can, and so then George has to jump off the bridge to save Clarence rather than to end his life. But I'm like, if you could both jump off this bridge and survive, why the hell was he gonna try to end himself there? And why did Clarence even feel the need to do that to rescue him? Because he would have been fine. Like,
yeah, I think it's probably a pretty big plot hole. The only way I can make it make sense to myself is like, if George had jumped, he would have stayed in the water and like gotten hypothermia or something.
I guess so, yeah.
That's the only way I can make it make sense to myself. Otherwise, it's like a gigantic plot hole.
I don't remember what town they live in, but yeah, it was all cold and
Bedford
snowy.
Falls, New York.
There we go. I wrote it down somewhere, but I'm barely looking at my notes. And Clarence is all like willy-nilly open about being an angel, and he's like, yeah, God sent me down, and I'm like, bro, no subtlety.
Blew his cover right away.
I'm like, what the hell? And of course George Bailey is like, oh, you're an angel, okay bro, that's fine. And then, I don't know, somehow George is like, I wish I'd never been born. And so then Clarence is like, cool, done, consider it done. And you've never been born, carry on. And so now we go through the town, and George is like talking to his people, and they're like, bro, who are you? Bro, I don't know you like that. And he's like, you do. And they're like, no, you're crazy, get out. And he gets that from person to person, all his friends around town, and I don't remember how he gets out of it, but somehow Clarence is like, okay, we're back, it's fine. We're good. It's a Wonderful Life again. And George Bailey is like, I don't remember. Who did he meet first after it was all over?
Like when he goes back home?
Like when, oh, that's right. Yeah, he goes home and the cops are there.
Mhm.
Why are they looking for him? The cops are looking for George Bailey because...
well, it's like they're with the people who are investigating the savings and loan. We didn't really go
Oh.
into this. And they're there to tell him that there's an $8,000 deficit because of, I won't go into it, but because of George's dumb uncle and Mr. Potter, who's like the villain of the movie.
Okay, right. And so the cops are there because they're like, hey, we need money. You owe people money. And George is like, that's all good and fine, but I'm alive. Where's my wife? Where are my kids? And he's running around the house looking for him. And his wife had been out looking for him, Miss Donna Reed. And Mary Hatch, I think is her character's name.
Yeah.
And she comes home and she's like, George, there you are. And he's like, here I am, darling, even though they had a huge fight before he'd gone out to, like, end it all. And now it's a wonderful life, and they're all happily ever after. The end.
The townspeople come back and they fund the $8,000 that the cops and everybody thought he embezzled.
That's right. That's what she was out doing. The wife wasn't out looking for him. She was out getting money for him.
And yeah, so the last scene is everybody bringing money and putting in a hat, and a bell on the Christmas tree rings, and George Bailey's youngest daughter, who for some ridiculous reason is named Zuzu.
Oh, right.
Here's the bell ring, and she says, teacher says when a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. And George smiles, knowing that Clarence finally has his wings.
Not gonna lie, teared up.
Yeah.
I teared up at that part, yeah.
It's a nice, happy Christmas ending.
I was much more invested in it than I anticipated. It did lose me for a while in the middle, but I think that might be less because of the movie and more because of who I am. Because by that point, I had finished my dinner. So normally when I watch TV or movies, I do it when I'm eating. And so by the time I'm done eating, if the movie is still going, my brain is already on to the thing it wants to do next. So I was like, oh, I need to get this done tonight. Oh, I should do this before I go to bed. Oh, what did I miss? And I have to rewind.
Yeah.
So then a 2-hour movie becomes like 3 hours because I keep having to rewind.
Yeah, I'm sorry I gave you such a long movie. I forgot how long it was.
All the movies you gave me were like an hour and 55 minutes or longer. But yeah, It's a Wonderful Life is 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think. So thanks for that.
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah, I liked it enough. It was fine. Hold on, let me look at my notes. Oh, yeah, in case you haven't watched Friends, the television series, Phoebe references this movie at one point, and she says, it just kept getting worse and worse. It should have been called It's a Sucky Life, and just when you think it can't suck anymore, it does. And I was like, Phoebe was right, though. Like, her summary was perfect.
Yeah.
Just, damn. I was like, geez, George, bad day, bro. So the movie starts with the camera, I think it's like going through the town or something. I think we start on the town sign, Bedford Falls, and then we like, as we're traveling through the town at nighttime in the evening, it's like voiceover whispers from various people throughout the town asking God to help George Bailey. And I just wrote that it was dramatic as hell. And because and I also wrote the children begging for help from God is what I wrote down. So I must have been his children, right? Like, please help Daddy or some bullshit. And I was like, geez, y'all. Y'all are really just pulling at the heartstrings right away. No easing into it. Wade into the water a little, damn. Clarence was way too excited at the idea of him being sick. God says a man down on earth needs our help, and Clarence says, splendid, is he sick? And I was like, bro, why are you so excited, though?
Yeah, like, I guess he just really likes helping people, but like,
I guess, but yeah, I'm like, don't be hopeful for it.
Yeah.
Damn. No wonder you don't have your wings, evil prick. Anyway.
Also, I've always felt the need when talking in this movie about people who like to know that like no major Christian denomination teaches that angels have to like earn wings. Like that's not a thing. I just need to make that clear.
I don't care about that, but I'm glad you got it off your chest. I think when we finally meet adult George, it's still God narrating George's life to Clarence, and Clarence says, like, we see adult George, and Clarence says, that's a good face. I like it. I like him. And I'm like, damn, Clarence is thirsty, though. Like, because the way he said it, too. It wasn't just the words. The way he said it. That's a good face. I like it. Damn. Okay. But anyway, George has a younger brother, I think younger, named Harry, played by Todd Carnes. And Todd Carnes, young Todd Carnes, is attractive as fuck. He's a very good-looking man. He sexually assaults their maid, and I'm not crazy about that. But he's a very good-looking man. He, like, grabs her ass or something, and I'm like, bro, that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Let's see. I forgot, at the very beginning of the movie, when we're meeting child George, we also meet child Mary, his future love interest, and the future Donna Reed. um, but I think there's somewhere around like 10 or 12 years old, I think. And we meet her, and we also meet another character, Violet, who comes back throughout the movie too, also as an adult, when they're all adults. And anyway, Mary's already sitting at the little counter where George works. I think he's working in some candy shop or something. And Violet runs
it's
in.
a drugstore.
That sounds right. He gives them candy. But Violet runs in and she's like, "Hi, George." And I'm like, "Damn, girl." And they ask him for something and he turns to grab it. And so Violet turns to Mary, George's future wife, who is also very much in love with him, and we can all tell. And Violet's like, "I like him." And Mary goes, "You like every boy." And Violet says, "What's wrong with that?" And I wrote down in all caps, "Yas, queen." Oh, okay. Donna Reed was 24. James Stewart was 36. I wrote it down. And Violet grows up to continue being a sexual human. And I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
It's the 40s. So I'm like, wow, good for you. I can never keep up with like how like bad things are at what period of time, you know? I always have trouble because I'm like, I know you weren't for it, but like how much did y'all just look the other way? And like, you know? Oh yeah. There's one part when I think this is when they're supposed to be 18-ish because they've just graduated and George is about to go to college. And George asks Violet to walk barefoot through the grass with him or something. And I think... Oh, wait. Is it Violet or Mary? I wrote Violet, but then in parentheses I wrote Donna Reed. But
yeah, it was Mary.
Okay, it was Mary. I just wrote the wrong character name. George asks Mary, his future wife, to walk barefoot through the grass with him. And I remember she seemed taken aback by it or something. Like, bro, no, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? And suddenly there's a laugh track, and it's revealed that there are a bunch of people standing around them in a circle. And it's very abrupt, and it comes out of nowhere. Like, obviously they're standing outside. He wants her to walk through the grass with him. But just all of a sudden, there's this heavy laugh track, and it's revealed that like half the town is standing around them just laughing. And I'm like, does this town have nothing better to do? To just like quietly sneak up off camera and like scare our protagonist for no good reason? He's just trying to like mac on this woman, and she's like, "No, I like my bare feet belong to me and not the grass." And the town is like, "Ah ha 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 ha." It came out of nowhere, and it felt very weird and out of place to me. And I had no idea what it was doing in the movie. I was like, is this a dream sequence? Am I in a dream sequence now? Because it felt like, you know, sort of like a nightmare where everyone's laughing at him. I'm like, what? And it made no sense to me, and it never came up again. And I was like, okay, then I guess we're done with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it.
And then I wrote down, was there an explanation? Oh, for all the animals that one guy has. George has an employee or a coworker working with him, and I feel like there was a crow at one point, and I can't remember any of the other animals.
Yeah.
But there were I think there was a squirrel at one point, and I was like, why does this guy have a zoo in the office?
Yeah, I don't think if that ever gets explained, I don't remember.
He's just got. So I'm like, was this whole movie a dream sequence? Is that
No.
what happened? Oh, and then when George is back to having been born, and he's all excited that everyone remembers him again. So I forgot to mention that after George gets upset with his wife and his kids, and so he goes out drinking. This is before he attempts the suicide. That wouldn't have worked, probably. He leaves and he goes out drinking, and then he's driving drunk and he crashes into a tree. And so one of the first signs when Clarence has wiped his existence away is that he goes back to the tree and the car's not there. And he's like, where's my car? I wrecked my car here. Dude, where's my car? And now that they're back, now that Clarence has resurrected him and given him life again, George goes back to the tree and the car is there and he goes, yay! And then he runs up to the Bedford Falls sign because its name had been changed. The town's name had been changed because he hadn't been alive to do something or something.
Well, the town villain, Mr. Potter, controls the town, and he named it Pottersville.
But now it's back to Bedford Falls, and George is like, yay! And I just thought it was really funny that he was running around town yelling, yay! Because he was so excited. Yeah. Yay! And then I wrote, I teared up when the hot brother said George was the richest man in town.
Because he's rich in friends and loved ones.
God, y'all, Todd Carnes. Oh my God. In this movie specifically, because I couldn't find pictures of him in like anything else. But I was like, bro, Damn. Anyway,
He's
that's
a
all.
very attractive man.
That's all my notes. That's all I got. He passed away a long time ago. I think at the turn of the century, basically. This century, not the one before 1940.
He didn't pass away before he was in this movie, although...
Just in case. Oh, God. Anyway, that's all I got. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think you covered everything pretty well, pretty thoroughly. They made George into a little too much of a savior, maybe, because a lot of what he's seeing that went wrong in the world that he didn't exist in is like all these people died because he wasn't there to save them.
Mm-hmm.
Like his brother died because he wasn't there to rescue him from a pond.
When they were kids.
Yeah, when they were kids. This kid dies because he's not there to keep his drunk boss from poisoning him.
Right.
Accidentally. Oh, his brother in the story that actually happens. Well, I mean, within the universe of the movie, his brother goes off and becomes a hero in World War II and saves this, group of men on a boat or something. And but since George wasn't there to save Harry as a kid, he's been dead this whole time. And those men also died, and like everybody in town is miserable, and there's like it's full of crime and like just misery. Mm-hmm. And all this stuff just because George wasn't alive. And it's like,
yeah,
but also like, yeah, I don't know, but I guess it's a Christmas movie. You needed Jesus. Even if that Jesus has to be George Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
But I do love that movie. It's not completely unproblematic because of when it was made.
I mean, yeah.
But
there was a black woman with speaking, like she had lines, and I was like, "Oh, what year is this?" She played the maid that was sexually assaulted. It was like I don't want it to sound like it was awful. I mean, it wasn't good, but I mean, he grabbed her ass and like pushed her into the kitchen, to get her to go to work or whatever.
Right.
But I'm still like, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, I know you're hot, but bro, that's no excuse.
No.
That's no excuse. Anyway, are we done with this?
Yeah, we can be. But go watch it this Christmas if you haven't seen it yet.
I probably won't ever watch it again, but did you want to do My Girl next?
Yeah, if you're down with that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. The year is 1972. I'm going to start all of them out like this.
Great.
Well, I'll try to be quicker with this one.
Do it.
We're somewhere in Pennsylvania, but I don't remember the name of the town. We meet Veda, who is a hypochondriac little girl. She is the daughter of a funeral parlor director named Harry Saltonfuss, and her mother is no longer with us. She is best friends with Thomas J., who I didn't notice this until I was writing I didn't think about it until I was writing my notes. But like in contrast to her hypochondria, he's allergic to everything. This movie is like very artfully made. I feel like there are a lot of little like things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's that little a thing. I was kind of embarrassed that I didn't notice it sooner. Anyway,
I don't think people really picked up on that.
But so yes, her father owns the Saltonfuss funeral home, and this woman. Oh, I should say who all these people are. Let's see. Harry is Dan Aykroyd,
mm-hmm.
and Veda is. Oh my God, her name's on the tip of my tongue.
You want me to tell you? Or?
Yes, please.
Anna Chlumsky.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And Shelley is played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and Thomas J. is played by Macaulay Culkin.
A young Macaulay Culkin. I mean, like all of his roles. Anyway.
That's true. So Shelley, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, arrives at the funeral home in answer to a help wanted ad for a makeup artist, but the ad failed to mention that it was makeup artist for the dead.
Mm-hmm.
So she meets Harry. Harry explains the deal to her, and she still wants to stay anyway. She wants to do it. Meanwhile, we see Veda crushing on Mr. Bixler, her English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds out that he's teaching an adult poetry class over the summer. And so she joins it, but she can't write for shit. And so I'm just kidding. But she writes, we see her in the class and she writes like a poem about ice cream.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
I mean, she is an 11-year-old child. I'm not saying I was a better writer at 11 than she is. And later in the movie, she writes much better poetry. Anyway, she writes this poem about ice cream, and basically Mr. Vixler is like, you need to write from your soul. And so Shelley's like trying to help her. And as Shelley's talking to her, we see them like bonding a little bit. She kind of is like slowly, gradually assuming more like of a mother figure kind of role. And in the course of that, we find out that Veda thinks that she killed her mom because her mom died in childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And Shelley and Harry start dating. Veda does not handle it well.
Nah.
Later, we see Veda and Thomas J in the forest, and they find this beehive. And Thomas J wants to knock it down. And so he's like messing with it. And Veda loses her mood ring. And then the bees start to like come for them. And so they run away, and they jump into the water, and then they're like drying off by this tree, and they have their first kiss. And I feel like more happened between this, but the next plot point I have written is that Thomas J returns for the ring. He goes back to the forest to find the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Oh, I had not thought about this before, but it's really sad. Veda gets her first period, and
oh, you're right, I didn't write that.
Veda gets her first period, and Shelley has to explain it, of course, because there's not another woman in the house. And Thomas J goes by to like play, and so Veda says that she can't, and I don't remember what he says, but he says something that like upsets her. And so she like pushes him, like, and he falls to the floor, and she's like, "Get out of here and don't come back for 7 to 9 days," or something. 5 to 7 days. Yeah. Don't come back for 5 to 7 days. But it just occurred to me, well, carry on, because I'll spoil it if I say it now.
Okay, so he goes back to the woods to find her mood ring
to make her happy because she just pushed him on the floor.
Right. I really should have written that in because I didn't think about the fact that he was like specifically doing it to make her feel better. But you're right.
Yeah.
But so he goes to get her mood ring, and he's messing with the bees again, trying to knock down the hive, and they all swarm him. And he's overwhelmed, and he's allergic to bees, obviously, because he's allergic to everything. And so he passes away, and Harry has to break this news to Veda. Veda is inconsolable. She won't leave her room. Meanwhile, Shelley is like trying to like be as understanding as she can. Like she's taking on more of this mother role. Shelley and Harry have this talk where Shelley tells him that he needs to like live life and pay attention to the living, especially his daughter, because he's been kind of wrapped up in the world of the dead and like focusing on the families that are, coming to his business for what people go to a funeral for. And let's see, Veda finally comes downstairs in the middle of Thomas J's funeral. She knows that she's ready. She doesn't even like get dressed for the funeral or anything. She just walks down in the middle of it. While the eulogy's happening. And probably the saddest part of the movie. The only part of this movie I knew anything about. I have to say this movie was spoiled for me before I saw it. But she comes down to the funeral, and she sees it's an open casket funeral, and she sees Thomas J in the casket, and he's not wearing his glasses. And she says his glasses, he needs to see, he can't see without his glasses. Something along those lines.
That's a paraphrase, yeah.
And so like, she's crying. It's so much. So she runs to Mr. Bixler's house. She finds out that he's engaged, and so she's upset about that. Just like all these horrible things are happening to her. Mm-hmm. So she goes to the tree where they had their first kiss, and she reflects. And meanwhile, everybody's freaking out because she's missing. And she gets back home. Everybody's relieved. She makes up with Shelley. She makes up with Harry. And then she rides off into the sunset with her new friend, Judy, who I forgot to mention or not her new friend, but her new best friend, Judy, who I forgot to mention until now.
I mean, I feel like she replaced Thomas J pretty fast, but...
Yeah. She also, I have this in my like commentary notes. She also, in the last scene, she's like, things are starting to get better. This happened and that happened, and Richard Nixon just won the Republican primary. And I'm like, why is that a good thing for you? Mm-hmm. But anyway,
My Girl came out in 91, by the way, which is, I think, why I was thinking 91 for Pretty Woman.
That makes sense.
But anyway, I think earlier you mentioned that it was set in 72, but you didn't specify that it was made in 91.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was like, oh, people will figure it out when he starts talking about the stars, I guess. But since we're going to talk about that part specifically, yeah. It's not like they made this then and they just included it in the movie. It's like political propaganda.
Yeah, no. I assume that either she was just really naive and she's like, oh, he's the president and maybe he'll be president again.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and this would also be naive, maybe she thinks that with him as the Republican nominee, the Democratic nominee is sure to win. But that doesn't make sense because incumbents usually win. Mm-hmm. Anyway, whatever. I don't know. I have to assume she was being naive in some way. But let's see. Things I wrote about this movie. Death is everywhere. Like, death just haunts this movie the whole time.
Yeah.
I wrote this early on in the movie, but like at one point I felt like one of the messages of the movie is love is gross but necessary. But yeah, light and dark, life and death are all like battling each other throughout this whole movie. Watching the credits, I thought there are so many people in this. Like there's so many people, there's so many names.
Yeah.
That I didn't realize. Oh, it always surprises me to hear a grade schooler cuss. There's a scene near the beginning of the movie, or at the beginning of the movie, where Veda is going to show some of her friends a dead body. And
just to throw it out there, they're not her friends. They are kids younger than her, and she's charging them for this.
Oh, that's right.
She's just doing it for money.
You're totally right. I forgot about that detail, that important detail. But anyway, so the coffin that she goes to show them is empty, and one of the kids tells her she's full of shit. Like it shocked me. Oh, and Veda uses her grandmother as a prank. And then proceeds to like love on her, and it's a very touching moment. But like she convinces the kids that she's a corpse, basically. And then she's like, I love you, Grandmoo, which I think is an adorable name for a grandmother. I can't believe I didn't mention her at all in my synopsis. But
also, I hadn't thought about it, but My Girl has a PG rating, and it has that child saying shit like within the first 5 minutes of it. Intrigue.
I didn't even think about the rating. Yeah. Oh, Jamie Lee gives. I'm granted. Caitlin Dowdy is much. She's a YouTuber, and she has a channel called Ask a Mortician. She's a mortician, and but I wrote that I loved the Caitlin Dowdy vibes that Dowdy. Sorry. I wrote loving the Caitlin Dowdy vibes Jamie Lee is giving off. But like obviously this was a long time before she had her whole thing. But yeah, that doesn't mean anything to anybody who hasn't seen her channel now that I think about it. Oh, I've got it bad for Mr. Bixler. I had just as much a crush on him as Veda did. TBH. I did not expect there to be I didn't expect poetry to be a major plot point in this. In this movie. So as a poet, I was pleasantly surprised. Let's see. Oh, it's so weird how kids make fun of people for kissing and like doing lovey-dovey stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's just such a weird thing, and I feel like it's always been true.
Yeah, I never got it. Even when I was a kid, I was like, I don't really, what's the problem?
Yeah.
But that's because I was enlightened by Pretty Woman, so. Oh, I also didn't mention when we were talking about Pretty Woman that for a while I was like, should I have a no kissing rule? like older AJ when he started hooking up, I was like, should I have a no kissing rule? I did consider it because I was like, I don't know. It does seem nice, doesn't it? Anyway, carry on.
Oh, I want Shelley's camper. She has this cool camper that she lives in. It's very retro. Well, I guess not retro for the time, but
right.
It's just very cool and like kitschy.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was like, Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she like drives it to and from work. Like it's I wrote Shelley's too trusting for a movie character, and I don't remember why. Oh, it's because she leaves Veda alone in her camper at one point.
Oh yeah.
And Veda I can't remember what she does, but she does something tricksy.
So I don't remember exactly how you said this, but Mr. Bixler, who is her English teacher in school, is also doing an English class over the summer, and Veda wants to take it, but it's $35, and her dad won't give it to her. And she and Thomas J, when inviting themselves into Shelley's camper, Shelley's in there with them, but they discover while they're in there with her that her cookie jar does not have cookies, but it does have all her cash.
That's right.
And so that's when Veda's like, "Can I use your bathroom? You don't have to wait for me though. You can just go. It's fine."
Yeah.
And so she steals the $35 from the cookie jar.
Yeah. And Shelley is just none the wiser. She's like, yeah, okay.
I mean, to be fair, I think that's a big reason why they placed it in the 70s, because these kids are running around unsupervised all over town.
That's true.
Shelley's like, "Yeah, strangers are fine in my home. That's totally cool." Because in the 70s, people were real dumb. They're just like, do you lock your front door? No, I don't close it. What do you mean?
Let's see. Oh, Mr. Bixler is being too hard on Veda's first poem because the other two we see in the first class suck. We see two other people read poems in the first class and they're terrible. They're just as bad as Veda's ice cream poem.
Interesting.
Just throwing that out.
You are the professional here, so I will say that, but that I don't agree. Their poems are awful, but I don't think they're as bad as hers.
Okay, they might not be as bad as the ice cream poem, but
because like they were fake as hell, but they were trying to tap into their emotions.
Yeah, the ice cream poem literally was just like, ice cream is good.
Yeah,
let's eat ice cream.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. While watching it, I did the math. If they did a remake of My Girl in 2021, if they made it now, and they set it as far back from now as My Girl was from 1991, the remake would be set in 2002.
I don't want to believe that, so I'm not going to.
Harry and Shelley are so cute. I wrote this like it was a deep thought. This is a movie built on relationships.
Oh my god.
Why did I do every movie? What? Anyway, Shelley and Harry go on a date to a bingo game. Oh, yeah. And Shelley is the only person vocally expressing like as they're playing.
Uh-huh.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Other people get more vocal later. When Veda and Thomas J ruin everything.
Right.
Dialogue that I wish I had written that's in this movie. Harry and Shelley. If anybody ever needs an alternate title for this movie for some reason, When Harry Met Shelley.
That's original.
Like When Harry Met Sally.
I know.
It's the joke. But anyway, after the bingo date, they're in Shelley's camper and Shelley says, "Dance with me." And Harry says, "Here." And Shelley just smiles at him and says, "This is where we are." Ah, I love that exchange. And then the cuckoo clock on her wall rings after they're dancing. Harry says, "I'd better go." And Shelley says, "It's only a clock." Which I just love that line. It's only a clock. And then Harry says, "Good night, Shelley." But then we go back to Veda in her room and she's watching out the window. And so she watched the part of the date that was a bingo. She watched them in Shelley's camper. Did she watch the entire date? Did she ever stop watching them? That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, she and Thomas J did run away from the bingo.
That's true. There was a brief period during which they were running.
Timothy mentioned it, but he didn't explain it. When Harry and Shelley are playing bingo, they have a moment and they're leaning in to kiss, and Veda and Thomas J, who are watching from a window outside, even though it seems like there's no glass, it seems like it's all taking place outside, but like...
Yeah, it's just like an open air kind of pavilion.
Yeah, and so they're like outside looking through a window and she sees it, and so she like puts on a deep voice and she's like, "Bingo!" and then like ducks down, and then chaos ensues and she and Thomas J run away.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, all I said was ruin everything. I was not very specific at all. Okay, so then we're back at the poetry class, and all the students are sitting in a circle, like kind of meditating and holding each other's hands. And I wrote, I feel like the meditation circle was a good representation of what people think poetry classes are like. Having taken quite a lot of them, I can assure you they are not exactly like that. When they're first at the foreshadowy beehive, Veda asks Thomas J why he wants to knock it down. And Thomas J says, "'Cause they're neat." I heard, in answer to why do you want to knock down the beehive, I heard for their meat. It's like, I don't think you can eat bee meat. You'd have to kill a lot of bees to make like a bee burger or something. Anyway, I laughed really hard at nothing in that moment. I laughed at my own brain, basically. Oh, I wrote, how much time passed between when Harry and Shelley met and when they got engaged? It seemed super quick.
This all happened in one summer.
One summer.
They met and got engaged.
It's ridiculous. This movie also had a really great soundtrack. I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Oh, Edgar Allan Poe the Fourth. I only know this because I was watching this on Amazon Prime and I accidentally clicked on the little X-ray function where it tells you what actors are in any given shot. And I saw the name Edgar Allan Poe the Fourth. He played someone at a carnival they go to. And he claims to be the great, great, great grandnephew of Edgar Allan Poe, the writer.
Uh-huh.
I just thought that was interesting. Oh, I wrote, why were kids in ye olden days always exchanging bodily fluids? Because in this movie, they become like spit siblings.
Blood brothers, because they both get cut when they're on the tree or something.
Oh, you're right.
So blood brothers first, and then later, they promise never to tell anyone that they kissed, and they're like, spit on it. And so
yeah, those were the two things I was mixing up. Anyway, but it seems like an old-timey things. People are always doing that. And before anybody writes into us, yes, I know that ye olden stuff is a misnomer and that Y was being used as a substitute for the letter thorn, which no longer exists in English. And people were really writing the, and then later people came along and thought it was ye. So don't write in with your hateful comments, people.
Yeah, no one do that.
Oh, I wrote in all caps, I knew the bees were going to kill him. The second the beehive was introduced, I knew the bees were going to kill him. Because I did have the climactic moment spoiled for me in that I knew he was going to die, but I didn't know how. But I knew that the bees were going to kill him the second they saw that beehive. And then they did. Anyway. Oh, I wrote, ew at the Reverend's God Had a Reason eulogy. I hate it when people say stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like he was saying that God had a reason for calling Thomas J. home or whatever. Oh, I wrote, oh God, why was I given emotions? There's a parallelism. So we already mentioned this, but at the funeral, Veda, when she's at the casket, she says, where are his glasses? He can't see without his glasses. And then while Veda is missing, Shelley says, it's dark. She can't be alone in the dark. And like the syntax pattern and like sight and darkness like mirror each other. I just thought that was really neat. I don't know if that was intentional, but hold on. This one's kind of long and it's not that long, but I have to reread it because the first sentence is, I'm such an idiot.
He has to reread it to make sure that he's willing to share how he's an idiot.
I'm such an idiot. When Harry walked in looking worried and Shelley said, she's here, my first thought was, she didn't call him? I forgot cell phones weren't invented.
That was the other reason I was thinking this was set then. Of course, I mean, in 91, cell phones weren't like super popular.
I wrote The Ring because I didn't mention this, but Thomas J's mother returns the ring to Harry.
The moon ring.
That Veda lost. But I wrote The Ring in all caps and I did my best attempt to draw the like flooding crying emoji.
Another aspect of The Ring that we haven't touched on is that when it's introduced earlier in the movie, Veda says it's always black. It's always been black, and she wonders if it's broken or something. And then when Thomas J's mom finds it, and she actually gives it back to Veda, Thomas J's mom runs into Veda and her dad at some restaurant or something. And so they're all talking outside of it. And Thomas J's mom gives the ring straight back to Veda, and it's blue instead of black. It's a bright blue.
I didn't even notice the color change. Why did I even watch this movie? Oh, okay. So Veda in the movie that I can remember, Veda only narrated to the camera one time near the beginning. Like we hear her voiceover narrating to us.
Oh, yeah.
But she only turns to the camera and talks to us one time. And it's near the beginning of the movie. And I don't quite understand why that's the case.
I had never thought about that before, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, the movie starts on her speaking directly to the camera, and then she turns to her dad, and she never turns back to the camera, like throughout the rest of the movie.
Right?
Huh.
Oh, and then my last note that I only noticed when I saw the credits. At one point, they're riding on their bikes down the street. I think it's just her and Thomas J at this point. They're riding their bikes down the street, and they're playing the name game. Like,
oh, yeah.
Me, my, Moana. I didn't sing any words.
Veda, Veda, Bobeda, Fanana,
Thank
Fana,
you.
Fofita.
I don't know why I didn't. I was just like, oh, well, they need to know that they can sub him in any name, but I just didn't sing any words. Anyway, I didn't know that that was a song that someone wrote. I thought that was just like a folk thing that people do. But in the credits, it was listed as being written by somebody and like the rights being owned by some corporation. I don't remember which one. I should have written down the citation, but it was included in the credits. I just thought that was wild.
Huh. The first thing that I have written down, to be clear, Jamie Lee Curtis is absolutely gorgeous now.
True.
But the first thing I wrote down was Jamie is a babe.
She's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the IMDb page for My Girl, and it says The Name Game, written by Lincoln Chase and Shirley Ellis. Who they? No.
I have no idea.
Nah, I don't believe this though. Well, now I'm Googling it, because y'all, we're not going to play this. Name Game song. Bitch. Lyrics come up for it. There's a video. Sorry. There we go, finally. I was like, get to the chorus, woman. It's a black woman who is singing, so it's a song written and performed by a black woman originally, Shirley Ellis. We'll put it in the show notes. What the hell? Never knew that.
I didn't either.
It's a whole thing though. It sounds like a lot of the song is her explaining the rules of the game, and then she gets to it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, the more you know. Okay, so where was I? I had to stop the movie 3 times before I got to Thomas J's death because I kept needing to prepare for the crying. First I had to pee, and then I needed tissues, and then I needed water because I was like, you need to rehydrate.
Yeah. It's very sad, y'all.
Like, legit. I had such a crush on Thomas J, and I was like, no. You can't see without her glasses. She's right.
I'm mad because I had the climax ruined by memes. That's what makes me the angriest.
Mm-hmm.
There are too many memes about that scene.
It's the memes for me. Yeah, I know the internet's ruined everything. It's given us a lot, but it's taken just as much. Much like the bees. Okay, I'm good. Are you good with my
Yeah,
turn?
I'm good.
So, to Wong Foo, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. It follows 3 drag queens. In the very beginning, 2 of them played by Wesley Snipes and,
Patrick Swayze?
thank you. I have a lot of names written down, so I'm like...
This movie has a lot of names in it.
It's got a lot of names. Oh, I didn't write down the 3 main ones. Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes are 2 very experienced drag queens, and they win a competition at the very top of the movie. And what they won is basically to get into another competition in Los Angeles. And then John Leguizamo is playing another drag queen who is much newer, but was also in the same contest. They did not win. I never know, because I'm like, he was in the contest as a drag queen. Oh, you know what? They're drag characters throughout the whole movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
We never see them present as male, so I'm just going to refer to them all as she for the whole time. So, anyway, they stumble upon, they being Patrick Swayze. What are their characters' names?
So Patrick Swayze's character's name is Vita Boheme.
Vita.
Wesley Snipes' character's name is Noxima.
Nox.
I don't remember her last name. And John Leguizamo's character's name is Chichi Rodriguez.
Right, okay. So Vita and Noxima stumble upon Chi-Chi, who is crying in a stairwell because she didn't win, and she's just really upset about it. And so Vita is like, well, let's be compassionate. Let's bring her with us. So now they're all road tripping because originally they won tickets for a flight. And they're like, well, let's just sell the tickets and buy a car, and we'll go all together. So they're driving to LA, and maybe it's in Florida?
No, LA.
Okay, all right. But they're driving from New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know where they are. They're probably still somewhere in the Midwest. And they're pulled over. And this cop comes up to them and he's like, I'm a dick. And they're like, well, sir, we're just trying to go. And he's like, but I'm a jerk. And they're like, but sir. And then he's like, get out of the car, ma'am. And Vita is driving, Patrick Swayze. And so he's like, ma'am, I'd like to speak to you back here. And then he tries to assault her. And so she knocks him to the ground and he's unconscious. And so the other girls get out of the car and they're all like, oh my God, he's dead. So they drive away. And so, of course, the first thing they have to do is change their clothes. So they stop somewhere at a rest stop and they change their outfits, and then they get back in the car and the car won't start. And so now it's the middle of the night, there's a cop not too far from them that they're pretty sure they've killed, and they're stranded. A very attractive young man in a truck comes by, and Chi-Chi, who is like, fuck you bitches, I'm going home, is like, walk down the street and she's flagging him down, and then she's like, let's go pick up my friends. And so pick up her friends. He takes them back to his tiny ass town where there's like 20 people living there, and everything's made out of wood. And all the houses, the one public space, it's all made out of wood. And
I have to ask because I don't remember. Is that plot important in some way?
no, it just bothered me.
I don't really.
It's a tiny ass town with 20 people, and everything's still like we're in the old west. Anyway, so they stay. I don't know if it's a hotel or just a big ass house.
It's a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
Well, so like it's their house, but it's also
Okay, so the mechanic in town also happens to live in the bed and breakfast with his wife, who I assume she runs it. And so they're like, okay, well, you stay here. Husband will take care of the car in the morning. And that's where we are for the rest of the movie, basically. So the girls get into crazy shenanigans. Some guys try to attack Chi-Chi, and then the man that she flagged down to save them in the first place when the car was stranded them comes and rescues her. And he falls for her, even though there's a local girl who's falling for him. And the way that ends up is that Chi-Chi's like, no, he and I are going to be together. We're running away. And the other queens are like, bitch. And Chi-Chi's like, no, it's true. And then the guy shows up. The girl who's in love with him thinks it's for her. She discovers it's not. It's for Chi-Chi. And so she runs off crying. And so Chi-Chi and the guy go off to talk alone. And he's talking about their future together and how he's so happy to have found a good girl. And Chi-Chi's like, I'm not the one for you. She's like, go after what's-her-face. And he's like, but what's-her-face? But I love you. And she's like, no, it's what's-her-face. And so he ends up with what's-her-face. How surprising. And Vita, what's up with Vita? Where we leave Vita? So Vita discovers that fucking Stockard Channing, y'all. Stockard Channing is in this movie, playing her own age. That's a Grease insult, in case you missed it. She was in Grease. They were all like 50. Anyway, so Stockard Channing is the woman who runs the bed and breakfast, and her husband is the mechanic, and Vita discovers that her husband is abusing her. So Vita tries to talk to her and just be like, leave him or something. And then later in the movie, the girls are in their room and they hear him hitting Stockard Channing's character, who is Carol Ann. And I sing it in my head like Pepper Ann. Carol Ann, Carol Ann. Anyway, Vita is like, oh, hell no. And so she goes in there and she's like, girls, please take Miss Carol and, take care of her or something. And closes the door behind her. And then she turns on the husband, who I think maybe is Virgil.
Yeah.
Okay. Turns on Virgil and is basically like, hey, you're a dick. And she beats him up and kicks him out. And I found it interesting that when the girls take Carol into the hallway and the door closes, we're still in the hallway with Carol and the girls, and Carol's like, he's gonna hurt her or something. But then later at the end of the movie, like, Carol is basically like, well, I've kind of known the whole time that you're a man. And I'm like, I wonder why. And also because, Vita / Patrick Swayze is not a small person. Very tall, very broad.
Yeah.
And she knows, everyone is under the impression, by the way, that these are women and not drag queens.
Mm-hmm.
So no one, as far as our drag queens know, knows that they are men in drag.
Right.
But Carol Ann is like, oh, I knew the whole time. But when they're in the hallway, she's like, he's gonna hurt her. And I'm like, that's not true, though. You don't actually believe that. I don't know what you're doing here. Anyway, that just bothered me. And Noxima, who might be my favorite queen, I'm not totally sure.
It's an excellent performance by Wesley Snipes.
It's so subtle.
Yeah.
It is so good. I thought all of them did really well.
They did. Yeah.
I was really worried about it, but genuinely, they made all these queens real humans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they played very heavily into stereotypes at all, and I was real worried about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Although I do think that my favorite performance was John Leguizamo. But, so Wesley Snipes' Noxima has befriended an old woman in town, a widow who hasn't spoken since her husband died. Mm-hmm. And she's, brought this widow out of her shell, and she's now speaking and, living, and they get to talking over old Hollywood stars, and it's real cute. Oh, and the men who tried to attack Chi-Chi earlier in the movie at one point, our queens have taken all the women in town, all 5 women in town, to go have makeovers, and as they're leaving the parlor and walking down the street, the jackasses who tried to hurt Chi-Chi are, catcalling all these women, just being douches, and so Noxima is like, excuse me, miss, whatever the old woman's name is. And she, goes over to the men, and she's like, is that a way you address a woman? And so she grabs one of the guys by his junk, and, drags him back to the women, and is like, you should apologize to these fine ladies. When you see a woman out in public or something, you should say, hello, how are you, or something like that. And she forces the very attractive man, who is from Never Been Kissed. What's his name? I'm on IMDb anyway, so I'm just gonna look at it here. Michael Vartan. He plays the love interest in Never Been Kissed. But He's very attractive, and he plays such an awful character in the movie. But by the end, of course, he and the rest of his friends have reformed, and they're all being very respectful. And when the queens are leaving town, he, like, goes and very politely is like, hello, goodbye, or something. I don't know. I don't remember. I wasn't there. And then the queens leave town. And I think it ends with us seeing that John Leguizamo wins the contest that they were going to or something.
And gets crowned by the titular Julie Newmar herself.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the full title I said was To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. I never, like, because I knew nothing about the movie except that it was about drag queens, I knew nothing else about it at all. Oh, and I forgot to talk about that dead cop. Hold on, I'll get to him. The reason it's called that is because early on, before the girls have even left New York, they're in, I guess it's not Sardi's, but it's probably supposed to be some place like Sardi's.
It's a Chinese restaurant.
Okay, it's a Chinese restaurant, and it's got celebrities, like, headshots all over the wall, and directly behind them is a photo of Julie Newmar, signed To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. And so they steal the photo, because I don't even remember why. Is it just like...
It's fate, because she was watching over the conversation where they sell their tickets and make their plan. Oh, they sell their tickets to a man who calls himself John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt and is played by Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm. And so they steal that photo, and it guides them through their journey. And then in the end, Vita gives it to Stockard Channing's character. But anyway, that cop, we follow the cop through the movie. At one point, he has a list, because he's now discovered. He now knows, oh right, because he was trying to, like, physically assault Vita, and so he essentially grabbed her junk, and he realized that she had a penis, and so now he's told all his cop friends, and they're like, no, you got beat up by a girl, and he's like, that was a man. And so now he spends the rest of the movie trying to find them, and he has a list. Oh, I wrote it down. Places for Homos was the title of the list.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Places for Homos, and I thought that I wrote down some of the locations, but apparently I didn't. But it was all real stupid stuff.
Yeah.
One of them was definitely like beauty parlor or something. Anyway, in the end, he does eventually track them down. Oh, because Stockard Channing's abusive husband goes to a bar to drink after he's been kicked out of his house. He happens to run into that cop there, and I don't know, somehow they figure out that the queens are in his town, and so he takes the cop back to his town, and the cop with his little blowhorn? What's it called?
Bullhorn? Yeah.
Bullhorn. Is like shouting in the middle of the street, shouting to the 5 buildings in town, I know those queens are here. Get them out here. I just want the drag queens. And so all the women in town, all dolled up, because there's a big town event. So they're all like really dressed up and got their makeup on anyway. They all go down there, starting with Stockard Channing. And they're like, it's me we're looking for. I'm the drag queen. I'm the drag queen. I'm the drag queen. And it's very nice and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the cop is essentially driven out of town. And that's where we leave that. Oh, he wasn't dead, by the way.
Yeah, right. Like, they left him for dead, but he wasn't really dead.
Yeah, he wasn't actually dead.
Vita knocked him out.
I forgot about that part. So, this movie, I've heard plenty of quotes from the movie, even though I had no idea what it was about. But let's see. The first quote that I wrote down was, no one is so rich as to throw away a friend. And, what in gay hell? When the cop pulls them over, I don't remember which one of them said it, but someone said, what in gay hell? I think someone said this to Vita. I don't remember where they are, but someone said, talk to the man, you speak honky. Oh, I think they're still talking to the cop. I think this is all from the cop scene.
That makes sense.
And then, I should have written down who said these things, but I think Vita said, I think he's dead, and then, I don't know which queen it was. I kind of think it might have been John Leguizamo, but she said, what? Why is he on the ground? And I died laughing. You know what?
I don't remember that.
I think it was Noxema, actually. I think that was Wesley Snipes. The next quote that I wrote down was, this is Chi-Chi. I love roughnecks. If I was your bread, would you be my butter? When Noxema is grabbing that man by his junk and trying to teach him some manners, she says, and please put on a clean shirt when you step out your front door. It's an affront to the delicacy of my very nature. And then she shoves him to the ground. And she's like, you just gotta know how to talk to people. To all the other women. And then, at the very end of the movie, I was like, this is a really good line, in support of trans women. Stockard Channing's character says, I know that I am very fortunate to have a lady friend who just happens to have an Adam's apple. When she's talking to Vita, when she's saying goodbye. I was like, that's a very lovely line. That's a very nice. In this town of 20 people, I don't know how her mind got so big. The same 20 people exchanging the same 20 ideas over and over again, you know? Anyway. Oh, weird ass decorating scene where they have magic. What the hell was that?
Yeah.
What are all these movies you were giving me, Timothy? They just have weird ass scenes that are totally out of place.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so the young man that Chi-Chi falls for, the one who saves her twice in his truck, his name is Bobby Ray. And the young woman in town who has a crush on Bobby Ray, her name is Bobby Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So after Chi-Chi has like broken up with Bobby Ray and gone to Bobby Lee and been like, honey, he's all yours, Chi-Chi gets Bobby Lee all dolled up to like go meet him. So then cut to the scene where Bobby Ray is, who he's looking for Chi-Chi. But we see Bobby Lee from the back and he's like, Chi-Chi? And I'm like, they don't look anything alike. Like, their body types are not the same at all. They don't have the same hair color. Like, what are you doing? I wrote big ass eye roll. But that's all my notes. That's all I got.
Fair enough.
While obviously it had plenty of problematic moments,
Sure.
it didn't have nearly as many as I expected. I mean, problematic is problematic, but they weren't nearly as bad as I expected either.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was real worried about it. I think little AJ would have liked this movie a lot. I think it would have been one of the movies that I played over and over again. Adult AJ is like, maybe I'll watch it again someday,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm probably fine if I don't. But little AJ would have had it on repeat. Yeah. So the other movies, as we mentioned, were I Know What You Did Last Summer and
The
Big Lebowski. So, sorry, y'all, I don't think we need to give descriptions of either one of them, but I do just want to say Timothy gave me The Big Lebowski, and I've put off watching it for years because I had no intention of ever watching it. Lots of people, mostly Timothy and Emma, but lots of people have said they enjoyed it, they liked it, it was a good movie, I should watch it. And I was like, I don't know, it just doesn't call to me. I don't even know anything about it, but I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't call to me, I'm good without it. And watching it, yeah, I was right, I'm good without it. I watched it for the 20 minutes during my meal while I was eating, and then after that I just zoned out and I couldn't even bring myself to really try to watch it again. I'd come back in every now and then, and I'm kind of like, where are they? Okay, great. And then I'd disappear again. It wasn't intentional. I wasn't even choosing to not pay attention. It just kept happening, and I'm like, if I keep straying from it, it's just because I don't care. I don't care. And I was surprised to see Tara Reid. I'm not a huge Tara Reid fan, but I had no idea she was in it. So I was like, oh, hey. And
yeah, I feel like, with the exception of some tertiary characters, almost everybody in that movie is in a name.
Julianne Moore, Steve Buscemi, I didn't know either of them were in it. Philip Seymour Hoffman, I didn't know he was in it. The only ones I knew, I guess, were Jeff Bridges and John Goodman. John Goodman's character, to be fair, all of John Goodman's characters like to yell a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
But this one yelled a lot.
He yells a lot.
And as I was watching it, halfway through it, I was like, wait, isn't this supposed to be a comedy? Because I was like, I haven't really laughed at all. So I guess I just don't find it funny. I'm not saying it's not funny. If you enjoy it, that's absolutely wonderful for you. But I guess the humor just isn't right for me. It just wasn't for me.
I did not like this movie the first probably 2 times that I saw it. I know that that's not a ringing endorsement for a movie that you have to watch it multiple times before you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not suggesting that you watch it again, AJ, because I think you should trust your instinct. If it didn't speak to you at all, you probably shouldn't give it another chance. But I will say, for anybody out there who's on the fence about watching it, I love this movie. I think it's a very well-made movie, but I did not like it the first couple times I saw it.
Why did you watch it 3 times if you didn't like it the first 2 times? That's crazy to me. Because I might give a movie a second chance every now and then. But if after the second time I'm still not into it, I'm done.
Yeah. It was mostly because, the first time I watched it on TV, and it's a very different movie on TV.
Oh, I bet.
And then I watched it with a friend who convinced me that oh, you need to see it again because it's different every time you see it. And then I did. And then I watched it again with another friend. So it wasn't like I was voluntarily seeking it out to go watch it again.
Do you have anything on I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I really enjoyed it. I'm not a big horror movie fan, but it was a lot of fun. As a 33-year-old man, I almost said 34. That is not my age. As a 33-year-old man, I felt a little weird about how attractive I found Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh.
And he becomes a fisherman at one point, and it unlocked a weird I was just I didn't know that was a type I have, but I guess it is.
Fisherman?
Well, maybe specifically Freddie Prinze Jr. is a fisherman.
Okay.
Anyway.
Freddie Prinze Jr. is anything is my type.
That's fair. he's a beautiful man.
It looks like he was 21 when the movie came out.
Yeah,
so,
I looked it up.
Yeah, you're good.
to make sure that I was okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I would not date a 21-year-old at this point in my life, but I can find one attractive in a movie, I guess.
I Know What You Did Last Summer is definitely where my love for him began, because I've always had it bad for Freddie. But yeah, this might be the first movie I saw him in. Came out in 1997, in case anyone was wondering. Freddie Prinze Jr., Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, and Anne Heche.
Yeah.
I didn't know who she was, like, when I was a kid, so... But seeing her now, I'm like, what? Johnny Galecki. I think those might be the only other, like, names.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loved I Know What You Did Last Summer when I was a kid. Watching it now as an adult, I'm like, damn, this thing is cheesy as hell.
It is really cheesy.
The acting is not particularly good at all at any point.
Although Anne Heche does play to her stereotype very well.
That is true. Her acting was also all over the place, but she might have given one of the better performances.
Yeah.
Jennifer Love Hewitt is much better than she is in this. Like, even then, she was a better actress than she was in this. And I'm like, girl, what are you doing? All of my movies that I gave you, I watched them all again so I could refresh my memory because it's been a minute. But as I was watching them all again, I realized that all the dialogue to me is essentially like music. I remember it all, the cadence and everything. I'm like, God, I remember this so well. It's so weird. But I do frequently misquote I Know What You Did Last Summer. There's a part when Jennifer Love Hewitt's character is just screaming into the world to the killer, and she's like, what are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? And I always misquote it to fit my own situations. What do you want from me, huh? What do you want from me? Which is my way of yelling at the world.
That's so funny because I have heard you do that many times throughout our friendship, but I never knew it was a reference. I assumed it was a reference to something, but I never knew to what.
Yeah. And then I also just want to mention that at one point, there's a killer and he's messing with them. Our 4 kids, he's just kind of terrorizing them. And at one point, our prom queen, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, well, she's not the prom queen, she's like
She's the...
I know, the town queen.
Like the Croaker Queen, is that
Yeah,
it?
that's what it's called, yeah. Croaker is the name of the town. And...
Wait, really?
I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, what's a croaker? Is that a thing?
I don't know of it being a thing, but I thought the town was like South something. Southport or South Point or something. I could be totally wrong. I thought it was like the Croaker Festival. Although it was just the 4th
no,
of
you're right.
July.
It's Southport. It's Southport. I don't know what the Croaker Festival is.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, she's the Croaker Queen, and so she's got long, pretty blonde hair, and a crown.
I want her crown. I love that crown with all the shells on it.
And so one night she's going to sleep, and we, the audience, know that the killer is in the house. We've seen him enter, like, peripherally, very quickly. He turns a corner just as she turns a corner. And so we know he's hiding in her closet when she goes to sleep. And the next morning she wakes up and her crown is on her head. And as she's pulling it off, confused, and she's sitting up, she realizes all her hair has been cut off, like really janky, messed up, chopped off. Not evenly. He didn't even try to make her look good or anything. It's real rude. I know you're a murderer, but like, people still should have manners. So, like, her hair is real fucked up. And so she goes to her friends to be like, y'all, I just got attacked or something. Her ex-boyfriend, played by Ryan Phillippe, is upset because Ray, Freddie Prinze Jr., is like, y'all, I got a note from the killer. And so at this point, she's had her hair chopped off. Jennifer Love Hewitt found a body in her trunk, and Ryan Phillippe got hit by a car. And he's like, I got a note. And so Ryan Phillippe's like, you got a note? And so he starts describing what's happened to the rest of them. And he's like, the killer made coleslaw on Helen's head. I didn't remember that line, and I died laughing when I heard
really
it.
Funny. It didn't register as funny to me at the time, but that is pretty funny.
Anyway, would recommend. I don't remember when I last watched it, but when I went to IMDb, I gave it a rating. So I had to have watched it in the last 10 years because I didn't start giving ratings on IMDb until, like, I don't know, the last 10 years. And I gave it a 6. So I'm like, okay, that seems fair.
Yeah.
It might be a little high, but...
It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's not necessarily like the best made movie or the most like artful movie.
No, and like, I love, Kevin Williamson wrote the screenplay, and he wrote Scream, and I love the Scream movies. And I loved this movie when I was a kid, and I'll still say I love it now. But now that I know how to make things a little more, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
They made some choices, I think, and they are there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in contrast to Scream, it's like Scream was a parody of these tropes and stuff, but this movie felt like it took itself maybe a little too seriously.
That's a really good way to put it. That's almost exactly what happened, yeah.
But yeah, I still really liked it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Me too. It is one of the ones that helped forward my love for horror movies.
Mhm.
So it is my favorite genre, even if I don't watch it much anymore. In case you couldn't tell. In case my darkness and my constant jokes about death never, gave you any ideas.
It is far from my favorite genre, but this might be in my top 5 horror movies that I've seen.
Oh, nice. We need to show you some more horror movies, though.
I haven't seen a ton of them. You know what? My position on horror movies is that more often than not, I go into a horror movie thinking I'm not going to like it, and then I do like it.
Mhm.
But there are some horror movies that I hate. So
that checks out.
I don't know.
Okay, well, we've been here forever.
Yeah,
so
we've been here
Do
forever.
we have any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Movies are magic.
Movies are magic. Yeah, and there is movie magic, too, so that's crazy.
Yes, true. So go watch a movie today.
Yeah. We hope we either gave y'all a reason to watch these if you haven't yet, or we helped reaffirm you in some of your opinions of these movies if you share ours.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen any of these yet and you end up watching them, let us know in a review what you thought of them on Apple and anywhere else you are listening to us.
But don't give us the rating that you would give the movie.
Yeah,
Unless
no.
it's good.
Yeah, no, just give us 5 stars. I'm just gonna flat out tell you what I want from you. There's
AJ's more direct, and I appreciate that about him.
no reason to be coy. Also, if you would subscribe and follow, you can hear the last few episodes that Timothy will be joining us for. If they wanted to support us financially, where can they do that?
They can do that at ko-fi.com
Oh.
/Can I Bother You?
You can help us finance Can I Bother You the movie?
Oh God, no promises. That is not happening. I'm not contractually obligated to that. I will not do it.
I'm holding parentheses in the air. This is a joke. There will be no Can I Bother You movie.
Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That word is hard to say.
A little bit. If you want to get Timothy some speech lessons, or if you want to help me finance my movies, definitely. No, the money you send to Ko-fi for Can I Bother You stays to Can I Bother You. What happens in Can I Bother You Ko-fi stays in Can I Bother You Ko-fi.
It's all about the money, baby.
Oh God. If you
It's a
want
callback.
if you want to find more of Timothy and that attitude, can you tell them where they can find it, Timothy?
Yes, I feel like I'm being coached. I don't know. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook at TCJDV, and you can find me on Instagram at Tomatio88. AJ, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at AJReyesF13. If you want to watch the little movies and videos and music videos that I make, you can do that there. And then you can compare them to the movies that I discuss here, and you can be like, AJ doesn't know what he's talking about. Or you can keep your eyes open and realize that I do know what I'm talking about. The choice is yours. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
Yeah. Oh, goodbye.